Why are there so many vocal doctors out there that publicly criticize the carnivore diet?
Well, you could apply the adage that you should never necessarily apply malice where stupidity will serve as an explanation. So there is a fair amount of that. There are a number of duly qualified medical practitioners running around saying things that are frankly stupid, ignorant, misinformed, ill-educated, moronic in the extreme. The mere fact that they hold a qualification that would entitle them to practice medicine does not actually make them an expert in any other field other than allopathic medicine, which has nothing whatever to do with nutrition science or nutrition. I shouldn't say nutrition science, Dave, because there isn't any. That's for another day. It's a bunch of words that have been written in a format for publication in a bunch of different journals over a bunch of different years. None of it actually proves anything. But we can do that in another discussion. And there are always ways to poke holes in any paper that you could put in front of me. And I've shown it before. I can do it in minutes. You show me a paper and I'll show you what's wrong with it, sort of thing. So in as much as that, people often say to me, well, you're working just as much from a point of view of theology as those who have antithetical views to you, aren't you? To which I say, fair comment, but not actually strictly correct, because my ideas are based on first principles. Skip the science, such that it is because it's nonsense, and then go to the, well, let's look at results anecdotally. When people go carnivore, what happens to their health? Because they're not doing anything different from that using prospective cohort studies, really. They're just dressing up their anecdotal stories as pseudoscience so that people who don't have a competent faculty of statistical analysis will go, oh, that's above my understanding, ergo it's great science, and we should trust it. Trust the science, Dave. I'm the science. Don't question the science.
This brings up a question that I've wanted to ask you for a while that I hadn't actually planned on. Think about my situation just working in a business environment. Over the years, working in a business environment, when I kind of I see processes within the business that kind of I don't think are functioning the best, or I think, why are we doing this process? We could be doing this much better than this. So I end up, because of that, I end up asking a lot of questions, and I end up, pushing back on things a lot. And what I've found over the years is that people don't like that. They don't like someone who goes, generally speaking, they don't like someone who pushes back against things and asks questions about things, right? And that kind of rubs people up the wrong way. And you end up being an enemy to most people. And it's like, oh, this guy's going to say something about this as well. So I kind of feel like that would be the same for people like yourself or Dr. Kim Berry or Dr. Chafee, or people who ask questions and are willing to say, no, hang on, I don't think that the narrative is the generally accepted narrative is necessarily correct. So can you speak about that a little bit in your experience, like when you've been working in universities or you've been doing research and stuff like that? Have you ever experienced that where people get frustrated that you want to ask questions or you want to push back on particular ideas?
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons that eventually, after several decades in academia, I came to a place where I went, okay, is this going to change? Or am I going to continue to butt heads for as long as I want to try and be in this industry? Is the stress, distress, wear and tear on me, for, let's face it, probably 80 grand a year maximum as a mid-level academic, is that worth it? And I had to quickly decide, no, it wasn't. The competing interests, Dave, for me always were that there are several things that exist in academia which both exist, but they are at odds. So it's like the immovable force versus, sorry, the irresistible force versus the immovable object sort of thing. Which one takes precedence? And what it is that in every Western, I was going to say reasonable Westernized nation, are there any left? I don't know. In most nations that have universities and the university structure and all of that, most of those countries have a law ingrained in the very legislation in those countries that suggests that any academic is free to hold and espouse any opinion they should see fit for any reason, whether that is popular or otherwise. In other words, it's like free speech applied specifically to the academic environment. I am allowed to have an opinion and I'm allowed to espouse it. You can't stop me. Then you get asked to teach a course on electrophysiology, just for an example. And I say, certainly I'll teach that course on electrophysiology, and here's what I'm saying to students about it. Here are the facts, here is the biochemistry, here are the physics. It looks like everything that you've learned so far on this is wrong. Whoops. Oh, no, you can't say that to students. Our curriculum document says what it says in the textbook, and that's what you're required to teach. No, it isn't. I am free to hold and espouse any opinion to anybody, be they students, the general public, the readership of academic journals, or anybody else, in any format I should see fit, so long as I'm not breaking any laws. If I want to say it's different to what you've been taught, and here is the reason I'm saying that, I'm entitled to do it. And assess the students on their ability to absorb that information and differentiate the classic so-called wisdom with, well, here's a new understanding or a better understanding based on the actual reality in which we find ourselves. Disciplined view of things rather than, well, here's that word again, a theological view. So you bet I spent 20-something years butting heads with deans of various departments who have been wanting to tell me, you can't say that to students, and me saying, yes, I can.